I know everybody's still visiting, but it's 10 o'clock. So I just wanted to say hello and welcome to our meeting. So we're going to go over our proposed, keyword proposed, annual budget covering this next year. This has not yet presented to the board. We do have a board member here, Mr. Bell. So Mr. Bell, I'm sorry that this will be repetitious for you, but we're very glad you're here. So we have selected a patriotic song. Thank you, Lynn, for filling in. We're ready when you are. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of gray, for purple mountain majesty, above the fruited plain. America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Greta Reed could not be here today, so Mary Vance offered to come and open us in prayer. Thank you so much, Mary. Great to see you.
So Greta literally called me as I was getting into bed Saturday night. She's feeling better, but she's got a ways to go. And yesterday I had not a spare minute, and I could tell you all about why. It was a great day, but you probably don't really care. So, a lot of people, not a lot, a few people have a gift of saying a spontaneous prayer in a gathering like this. I'm not one of them. A lot of people are very comfortable with a spontaneous prayer in a situation like this, and don't worry about what comes out of their mouth, it seems sometimes. I'm not one of them. So I have a pre-prepared prayer that I have said at multiple times at gatherings similar to this. And about, I think, 6 months ago, I said this prayer at the opening of a council meeting. So, but who remembers that, right? So, this prayer incorporates a hymn and a poem by Ruth Duck, who is a very prolific and wonderful author of poetry and hymns. Let us pray. We pray for a nation just and fair that seeks the welfare of us all, where leaders guide with prudent care and nurture life for great and small. Creating and sustaining God, help us to be good citizens of this world. Remind us to respect those whose views differ from ours, so that we might find resolutions for conflict without indulging the urge to anger or condescension. We pray for a world where every child finds welcome in a sheltered place, where love is tender, undefiled, and firmness intertwines with grace. All of this we lift up in prayer for ourselves, for each other, and for the world. Amen.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. Wanted to just make a quick announcement. First of all, we have lots of chairs here at the front. All you Baptists can come right up here instead of being in the back. There's about 4 or 5 right here and a couple sprinkled in here and right up here, so there's plenty of room for everybody. So our home care license came through, so we're very, very excited that we'll be opening that home care business. And went through without a hitch, an issue, so we're really, really pleased. It'll be right down the hall from our current Health Resource Center clinic. And so it's really, really great news. So I just wanted to share that with you. Also, I wanted to say a special thank you to Laney Cordona and Richard Corbett for your review of my PowerPoint and recommendations, as well as the board report, which will be presented later this week. So I wanted to go over, I know you've seen this before, so I am going to repeat myself just a little bit, and I apologize for that. But our founding principles state that we're committed to a program of stewardship that recognizes the responsibility to use our resources well. And we've been very, very deliberate and focused on that this year. Our budget philosophy has not changed in the 25 years that I've been working for this organization. Monthly service fees are used for monthly operating expenses. You see them here on the left. I believe everybody with all of these working should be able to see what's being presented here. I'll also post it on my W Life for your further review. Monthly service fees cover your salaries, benefits, raw food, utilities, repairs, maintenance, supplies, etc. Entrance fees are used for debt service, redevelopment, reserves, capital improvements, vacancy refurbishment, statutory, and other reserves. Ones I'm most involved in are the capital improvements for our campus, some of those ideas I get from you throughout the years, thank you, and vacancy refurbishment. So to look at our current financial status right now, Westminster Communities of Florida has total asset of over $825 million and liabilities of over $712 million. And I realize we're stating the obvious by saying it's always good when assets are higher than liabilities. All you finance people know that. And $21 million has been spent on capital expenditures year to date, and we do our fair share here, as you well know. We've got a couple of things going on. We're finishing our dog park, we're working on the emergency entrance, second floor of health center dining room. Those are some of the things we're still working on this year. All outstanding debt is paid over 30 years at a fixed rate of 4%, and total operating revenues for the organization at $148 million, which is up from last year, and total operating expenses of $144, which is also up from last year. A lot of that is wages. You'll recall that we increased all of our wages across the board to $15 an hour. So all of our wages went up 4%, and we actually expect 5% next year. And we know we're going to have a market adjustment of approximately $457,000 just here at Westminster Oaks in market adjustment. We do salary surveys throughout the year and make those recommendations to make sure that our staff are in line with other industries, hospital, hotel, hospitality, and so forth. Contract labor is down throughout the organization, which is great news. At Westminster Oaks, I have to give Vicki and Jeff credit. We haven't used agency since September of 2022, which is amazing. Most communities, even here locally, cannot say they don't use temp staff, and we don't. We use our own staff, and we're very, very proud of the people that we bring in. We know utilities went up 6%, raw food up, and repairs and maintenance as well. Operating costs are budgeted to be up 5.8% this year, and again, a lot of that is based on wage and wage increases. Now, the good news is there's increased applicant flow. We're extremely blessed in Tallahassee to have lots and lots of applicants when we open up any job posting. Unfortunately, every out-of-work Taco Bell employee and hairdresser thinks they can be a chaplain. So we have to wade through all of those to make sure that we get the right people. Skilled nursing is really where our largest wage rates increased. We would actually be on a Zoom call in the morning with one rate, and by the afternoon, the rate had changed just because the healthcare industry was in such a state of flux for such a long time, and thankfully those days are behind us. Organizationally, we incurred $3.5 million to bring all team members up to 15 an hour, and some of this also incurred in our health center, not just dining, housekeeping, and other places, but a lot of it occurred there. So state of Florida has slightly changed how the required ratios are met. They make it actually easier for some of our counterparts to make their minimum 2.5 nurse aide wages. We did not. We kept the high bar, and we said anybody who's going to provide clinical care is going to be licensed to do so. We're not blending in housekeeping activities, anybody else, to make that happen. So 2.5 is for CNAs and 1.1 is for nurses. And I'm very proud that our company took that position. So our health insurance plans, many of you use CHP. That is what we offer here to our team members. It is a very highly rated plan, and it's a quality top-rated plan. We've been notified across the board that premiums will not increase. That really surprises me. We have been overall experiencing reduction in our contract labor, and that's great news. But in bringing more full-time people on board, we do expect our benefits to increase. And just to give you some perspective, context, pre-COVID, we had 394 team members. Once COVID hit, we dropped to about 290. So that was a big hit for just Westminster Oaks. And this is what everybody experienced across the board. Now, for us, we didn't lay people off. These were people choosing to retire, go on leave, were fearful to come to work, cut back hours, things like that. So now we're sitting at about 375. So we're making our way back up to the pre-COVID level. And that's really, really good news. And you'll see that as you see more and more departments starting to backfill all their positions. So we don't use 401k because we're not for profit. We use 403b retirement plan, and we also have an employee matching plan. So a lot of our team members take advantage of these retirement plans. And we intend to continue our 4% match in the upcoming year. With the continued impact of named storms, I'm sure this doesn't surprise you, we have an estimated increase on property insurance premiums of 25%. That affects all of our communities. Now, in Tallahassee, we're really blessed. We're not in a floodplain, and we're not in an evacuation zone. So the good news is you typically don't have to go anywhere. The bad news is that means people come to us when they need a place to stay, and they typically stay right here in the McGuire Center. So all other insurances, we expect an overall increase of 5%. So some of our other budget assumptions include raw food. I know that any of you that go to the grocery store have seen the price of eggs and other goods increase. So we're experiencing the exact same thing from our vendor. U.S. Foods is our primary vendor, but of course in Tallahassee, we use Southern Seafood. We love them. And Chapman Produce is now, they go by a new name called What a Chef Wants. So, but that's still a local company too. So we do get some of our seafood and produce and Bradley sausage and stuff like that local. But U.S. Food has told us that to expect a 6% increase in costs. Utilities are already up by 5%, so we're gauging the utility bills for next year to be about the same. And our occupancy. So residential living occupancy is budgeted at 94% as of last Thursday. Our actual occupancy is 94.6, which is really nice. Skilled nursing is budgeted for 93.3. As of Thursday, we were 98.3. So they're doing an outstanding job, thank you. Assisted living is at budgeted for 94. We're currently at 89.7. Laura actually had some contracts signed last week, so we'll see that number change this week. And memory care, budgeted at 94%, it's currently at 100. So total occupied and sold right now is 96.3% on our campus, which is outstanding. So that's as of Thursday. That's when we send our reports in to our home office. And a lot of that is thanks to you. So I'll say thank you for all of you that refer friends and neighbors. We actually paid out year to date, and I happen to look this up, that's the only reason I know this, approximately $65,000 in incentives. $65,000 goes to you, the referring resident, as well as your incoming referred resident. So, so y'all have done a great job marketing for us, and I thank you so much for that. Sorry. So now on to the fun part, operating revenues. So you see operating revenues are not changing that significantly here. If you look at the different revenue centers, the revenue centers for independent living, we expect our occupancy to climb. So that's why we expect our proposed budget of revenue to be a little bit higher. It's not that much. Home health, listed here, is not your new home care service. That's the companion care service. And the private duty, this is the pass-through account for private duty. So your private duty bills us, we put that on your bill. That's where this number comes from. In the health center, we expect private pay to drop just a little bit as people continue to access their hospital and other insurance. Private pay convalescent is projected to be lower as well. People using their managed care and Medicare days. Private pay non-contract is where we fill those available beds only if you do not use those beds. We do not put off a contract resident in favor of a non-contract. We always offer that bed to you first. Medicare has, our rating has increased. We've done really, really well in our Medicare and Medicaid, thanks to all the improved quality outcomes. Thank you, Jeff. I see you standing at the back. You and your team have done an incredible job to improve our star ratings and our quality measures. So we're really, really pleased at that. Managed care, which includes CHP. More and more people are using CHP and other Advantage plans in favor of Medicare. So we expect that to actually increase significantly. So total nursing will bring in 1.2 next year. Lower here, outpatient therapy, you see that listed, is pretty flat right now. We don't have much experience in the outpatient sector because it's only been open for about a half a year. So we expect that to grow. And our assisted living, we changed our license to 120 from 100. And we had actually 87 beds. And so with a potential for 120, you can see a pretty big, increase right here. Make sure I'm hitting the right button. Right here, so from 520 to 553. And then our other income includes guest meals, guest rooms, extra housekeeping, maintenance, and so on and so forth. So expenses. Our major expenses are going to be based on wages. We expect to give our team members 5% increases, and we still have the $457,000 in market wage adjustments for our team members. So by cost center, if you go down here, you can see the total changes here. So starting at the top, resident services, we are adding additional cable, as well as we have lots of outings and entertainment. Thank you, Lynn, for all of that. In wellness, we have filled all our positions, so we're very excited about our wellness team. That'll be all the people in fitness that you're accustomed to seeing down there, as well as some of their contractors. We want to continue to have a really robust wellness and fitness program for you. Home health, I mentioned earlier, that's the pass-through account for private duty. Dining services, of course, is raw food. So raw food's gonna be the biggest increase there, 6% plus supplies. And alternate dining is also raw food, country store, wine and beer. So apparently, we're enjoying some wine and beer. Housekeeping, their biggest driver, and I went and looked at the biggest driver per each department. Housekeeping is the outside services, carpet cleaning services. So don't think we've done as good a job with carpet cleaning services in particular, so we now have a very robust schedule. So that's a cost driver here. Maintenance is lawn care, that's no big surprise, and automotive. And yes, we are making an adjustment to our maintenance staff. All of our other departments, line staff operate at 7.5 hours per day. So maintenance is only just coming in line this year with 7.5 hours a day. Utilities, the biggest driver is fuel oil, gas, sewer, and water. And nursing, no surprise here, is labor, consolidated billing. So if you come into our health center and then you go out and get an x-ray or a surgery, you come back to us, you're using your Medicare days, we have to pay for that. So that's part of our consolidated billing. Biohazard waste removal, record storage, and transportation are our biggest drivers. Therapy, of course, is labor, supplies, and software. Same thing with outpatient, labor, supplies, and software. Then in assisted living, that's a pretty good jump. Labor, supplies for our over 100 people now that we're able to care for because we changed our license to 120. Also, we've incurred additional costs with memory care opening. Now we have some experience that we can look at. So just to give you some perspective on that, third floor, you remember that was all our memory care floor. Third floor had one housekeeper. Our memory care has two housekeepers, one for each side. Our third floor didn't have a kitchen staff. It had servers. Memory care has its own kitchen staff to make food, plus the servers. We have dedicated activity staff, so we have 2 or more dedicated activity staff. Also, third floor didn't have its own coordinator. Memory care has its own coordinator. And third floor didn't have its own receptionist. Memory care has its own receptionist. So there are definitely some additional costs in assisted living. So just to bring that to your attention. So administrative, really our 2 big drivers there are the move managers. I mentioned to you the $65,000 that's been paid year to date to pay for move incentives for our referring residents and our new residents. And personnel, we literally blew our personnel budget with FSU tickets and FAMU tickets this year. And our staff loved it. They had a great time at the game. And so that followed by travel and postage. So those are our biggest drivers there. Property insurance is up by 25%, and management fees is 5.3% of our revenue. And just to give you some perspective on that, our colleagues are typically 6 to 8% of revenues. So our total operating expenses go from 2.9 million to 3.1. So our net operating income has actually dropped because of our expenses. So this is always an interesting graph. I've looked at it year after year after year. So you see where Social Security is. Social Security is right here, a little over 3%. Okay, next line is residential increases, and then this is PRC overalls, just a little bit higher there, about 5.5%. Again, this will be available to you to review on MyWLife. So I know this is the slide you've all been waiting for. You notice I put it at the end. Yes. So remember last year we had a 10% increase in residential rates? It was painful, I know. It was painful for all of us. So this year what we're proposing, and I'm using the word proposing because again this has not been presented to the board except for our one gentleman, Mr. Bell. What we're proposing is 4% increase. And again, that is related to all of the cost savings that we are putting into place right now. For assisted living, we expect that to be 4 or 5%. Again, the board will decide what they feel is the best increase for them. And then skilled nursing, the proposed is 6 to 12. Again, we're checking with colleagues in the area to see all that they're charging and what they're paying for. Prior year was 7 to 10. Again, the slides will be posted on MyWLife for your review. And again, we also have our resident council here and our board member here as well. So we got through that pretty fast. So I'm happy to take questions and comments. Yes, sir? Tegan, over this way.
Loud, if that's,
Everyone wants to be able to hear you.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
You mentioned when you first started that I think I have the term right, home care license has just been obtained.
Yes, so remember Mark Miklos, who was here in our previous town meeting, who talked about our home health care license and our home health program that we're creating? We actually have it in numerous other properties. It's based out of Bradenton, Florida. And so we'll have people in home care that can provide companion and other type services for you. Because it's a licensed agency, if you have a long-term care policy, and this is probably the most important piece of it, if you have a long-term care policy, most long-term care policies, and I've read over 20 of yours, most of them require that they will not reimburse you for those fees unless it's from a licensed and certified agency. And so by having this home care service, then that means your long-term care insurance will be put to great use should you choose to activate it because it's licensed. That means you will be reimbursed. So it's very, very important distinction from what we have now. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments? Are you pleased about the proposed 4%? I hope you're pleased. We worked really hard for that. Really, really, really hard. And my department heads can attest to every bit of it. Yes, ma'am?
I had a question concerning the 7.5 hours per day for maintenance.
Yes.
We put in work orders and it takes weeks to get it done. Are you cutting back their hours from 40 hours a week to 35 or whatever?
So I'm glad you brought that up because first of all, the work order system has to be fixed. We all know that, and
Yes.
Tim knows that. And Tim is taking charge of that, and he's actually going to put a plan in place that I've asked him to put into our quality assurance program for responding to work orders, especially where parts have to be ordered and informing people that parts have to be ordered. The fact of the matter is every other department on this campus operates at 7.5 hours. All other line staff are at 75. Maintenance is the only department that has never been touched in all these years. And they are being brought into line with everybody else and being fair and equitable to all the other departments that work just as hard, maybe harder, than maintenance.
So you're saying it's hours per week, but our work on our individual requests, some of them are done very quickly, like changing the
know.
filters, changing the water in the refrigerator and things like that. But other maintenance requests go on and on and on, like
I'm
fixing
aware.
our kiosk, fixing the lights at the kiosk
Well,
in our
lights,
neighborhood, and all kinds of things like
lights,
that.
lights have to be contracted. Our folks can't fix most of those lights. That's why we hired a light man. You've probably seen a truck that says light man on it. Light man has been going from pole to pole to pole to pole to pole, fixing all of the lights. I think we're down to 5 maybe that don't work and 1 that flickers. So those have to be contracted out. That's not our staff even doing that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Otherwise, it'll be a short meeting. Yes, ma'am.
What is the maintenance staff number that they're supposed to have, and how many do they have on board right now?
Total number of team members? Without asking Tim directly, I think it's about 25. Remember us, maybe 30? 30? About 30. Now, of those, you have the executive staff and you also have the administrative staff. Their hours are the same. It's the line staff that's changing. Now, the other part, and you heard me say, we're doing market adjustments. Almost every single maintenance employee is getting a market adjustment, some of them pretty significant. So they're going to make up that salary in no time. So
Right.
the lion's share of them are actually getting the market adjustment.
But I didn't hear the answer. Are there 30 on board and they're supposed to be 30?
Yes.
Are they fully staffed? guess that's what
No, I think we're still missing an engineer, and frankly, we could use another painter. So we know that we still have openings in maintenance,
Okay.
so. And we will backfill them with qualified people.
But until you're fully staffed, wouldn't it make sense to have them work the full 80-hour per 2-week pay period?
I don't think it would make sense to all the other departments who have already taken those cuts. They all work at 75 hours.
Okay.
And frankly, I don't see many maintenance staff breaking a sweat. No, I see a lot of driving around. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What's the situation in the dining area, Shannon? Do we have a director of dining services and a chef yet?
We have been interviewing quite a few director of dining services, and we actually interviewed a chef while Vicki was out. Sorry about that. So we have expanded our search throughout the country to try to bring in a great dining services director. We did finally get a really, really good applicant, but when we interview them, we really try to share the good, the bad, the ugly, everything about running the dining services department. And so in running the dining services department, Mario and I were interviewing somebody, and he's kind of started backtracking and saying, well, I don't know that I really want to do that. Finding somebody with this particular skill set is really unusual, because most people who've worked in any kind of senior housing, they have worked in a much, much smaller setting. This is a really, really big setting. I mean, it's 700 plus, 1,000 meals a day. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work to do. So there's some really good people out there, but they have to be up to this challenge. And so what we try to do is make sure that we are giving them that information. Yes, ma'am.
Shannon, one of my biggest gripes out here is the lack of IT and communications.
Yes.
You've gotten reports, several years old, about that we need an IT department. You have some nice people working, but they're not IT.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything in the budget. I
No.
can't really tell if that's capital outlay.
No.
So we have a horrible phone system here. I think everybody can agree. It's like chase your tail to leave a message and get a reply. I know people have cell phones, but we're not given their cell phone numbers. So it's really hard to communicate without IT or a telephone system that works.
So we do contract IT. I know that's not what you want to hear. That's JD Camp comes and helps us with that.
What does
And
he do?
We basically give him work orders. And those,
On what? I'm just trying to understand what IT, it's kind of like the word organic. It means a lot of things.
yeah. But the telephone system, we did publish, it was your request, that we have cell phones for assisted living and skilled nursing. And so we got the skilled nursing numbers in, we posted them, and the assisted living, we put that in the weekly memo.
Okay, weekly memo comes and goes, Shannon. We need something more permanent that we can rely on.
So MyWLife, okay. So Lynn, you'll help us with that? Put those cell phone numbers on MyWLife? Okay.
What about the IT department?
Again, that's all contracted out. So
I don't know what that means.
they take work orders as we give them.
So work orders for IT
so
would
for
go through
example-
maintenance?
So for example, POS system. We added POS system to memory care, to the business office. So he would come and install that. We had a donation, Gail, for the theater, so JD came and installed all of the IT there. That was surround sound system, so he does things like that for us.
Okay,
He's
so-
been troubleshooting, he fixed that. I remember you complained about that particular one. He fixed that screen for us. So he does those kinds of things.
That's audiovisual for me.
Yes, yes.
So what I'm looking for is IT. My Life, whatever that is, needs to be replaced or upgraded, or it doesn't work. This doesn't
Thank
work.
you. Thank you for sharing. Yes, ma'am?
Shannon,
Yes.
would you mind introducing or telling us who Mr. Bell is? I know who he is, but I'm not sure everybody here
Oh,
does.
well, thank you.
Or the significance of his presence here.
Mr. Bell, would you mind standing up? I see your white hair back there. Thank you. Hello. William Bell is the chairman of our board. This is the North Region Board. I believe you also participate on the executive board as well, Mr. Bell. So we appreciate you being here. And we invite all the board members to come to the quarterly meetings. So we appreciate you being here. Yes, ma'am.
Shannon, when was all of the backup information posted on MyW Live?
Nothing will be posted until later today. The board report, which is what this is based on, was given to the resident council president in December, and he gave the board report out to resident council members, including you.
I don't believe that's the case, but we'll.
Yeah, I
we'll-
saw your
we'll-
name copied,
We'll
yes.
see that in the meeting, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right, yeah.
Okay.
One other question,
Yes, ma'am.
because the 4%, although less than last year, is still troubling, because this is just one of many increases that we as residents are facing.
Mhm.
And we're grateful that staff is getting an increase, but we're getting 3.2% in Social Security. Retirement plans are not going up at that level. So our lifestyle is being cut back. I'm wondering what kind of analysis they did, and I assume this would be in Orlando, to really look first and foremost at the impact on residents before any other part of the organization.
I hear you, and I know that Mr. Bell also heard your remarks as well, as far as analysis. I can tell you from our end, we start our budget in the summertime, typically in August. We start looking at payroll, and then we move on to non-payroll. We work on capital. We get ideas from you as to what capital expenditures that you're interested in us working on. The dog park would be one of those as well. So we work through that for several months. We submit it, we review it, we meet together in Orlando, and we review each other's numbers. We share best practices. We try to look at apples and apples in comparison, and make sure that we are doing right by you. So it is a very, very long and arduous process. And when we come out with our numbers, they're very, very solid. Yes, ma'am. They're not having it. They want to hear you.
I guess my basic question is, on a Saturday or even a Sunday, if someone is needed here and they do come and do something, do they get paid extra?
Yes, they do. Yes. Our
So-
staff that come into work are always paid, and it's a 2-hour minimum.
Well, what could we do to encourage people to at least come in a couple of weekends and see if they can help us out? My pet peeve is the swimming pool on the weekend, and I'm not the only person. If the water's cold and the room is cold and the hot tub's not working, it's really, in my letters to friends away, I say it's wonderful living here, and I love the pool, and I wouldn't say anything to anybody else that it doesn't work sometime. But I just would like to know if somebody could come and turn the heat up in the cold weather on the pool, if they would get extra money for doing that.
Well, we actually have maintenance staff here on the weekend.
Well, we
Ralph
can't
Everang
always.
is here every Saturday and
We
Sunday.
can't always get them to do it though, Shannon, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So make a particular note to follow up on that. Yes, ma'am.
First, I want to say it was very nice to have a visual as you spoke that we could actually read here in the audience. Thank you
know?
very much.
I have to give credit to Richard Corbett because he is my PowerPoint guru. So I run my PowerPoints by him. Obviously, he's not paid to do that, but to just glance at it and make any recommendations. And so he did make some recommendations, and I very much appreciate his input.
It really made a big difference in how we feel that you care about us seeing it.
Good. Thank you so much.
Now, I do have one thing I'd like to just mention for the future for consideration. We have a system where residents pay their increase as a % of what they were paying the prior year. And what percentages do over time is spread the distribution to make it larger and larger. So those who've been here a long time pay a little, and those who are just coming in are paying a lot proportionately. And I think it would be nice to look at the possibility of, for similar type housing arrangements, a flat rate that you need to increase rather than a %. It's a long-range idea. I think it needs to be looked at as a possibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
In your presentation, you give abbreviations for, like, I don't know what POS is. I'm not sure about that. I think
I'm sorry, that's our point of sale system. I apologize. I should have
wish-
spelled that out.
I wish you would explain those in your presentations.
Thank you.
In 2023, there were considerable interest in increasing the security of residents in the memory care center.
Yes.
One strongly argued and proposed idea was to provide electronic locking for the rooms. Is that in your budget?
It sure is. It's in our capital budget.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Question,
Yes, sir.
the 4% increase as well as all the other increases, is that just this location, or is this across the board, all?
It's just us. Some
Just
of the
us.
others are higher, and I can think of one other that's lower. Most of the others are higher.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Shannon, the only concern that I continue to have is that the statute, the regulatory statute for CCRCs requires that the documentation be provided to residents, not just the residents' council, but to residents, make it available. And I did run around last Friday looking for the backup materials so that I could be informed coming into this meeting.
Sure.
And I do appreciate the PowerPoints, and I think that is helpful, but I ran a state agency, but I can't look at your numbers. And by the way, I don't even know what your fiscal year is. Is it April to?
April 1st to March 31st. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you say the 2024 budget, is that the one starting April 1st or the one we're in right now?
2024 ends March 31st. 2025 begins the new year.
Okay. I don't know if everybody else maybe is way ahead of me, but I didn't really understand that. Because, so you're using the assumptions for the 4% increase in those numbers?
Into the new year,
Okay.
yes, which
All right.
begins April 1st.
So,
And the board report was given to the governing body.
Right.
Okay.
And the only thing that I would say is, just so everybody has that opportunity to see your assumptions and to see the numbers in full, it would be wonderful to get that documentation ahead of this meeting. Because I just, maybe it's just me, but I can't just look at your slides and automatically know what they're trying to show. And particularly since I made a different assumption about your fiscal year and when that starts. So, and my other comment I will make again, which is that budget process that you kindly just talked about. which starts in the summer.
Yes.
I was hopeful that residents could get some idea of where that budget process was headed, say in the fall, and maybe some of this information and a proposal regarding the fee increase could be suggested, and then the backup materials looked at before this meeting occurs. So that's just my view of the world, and I appreciate
Understood.
that.
And as a reminder, the board, this will not be presented to the board until the 10th, which is Wednesday of this week, Wednesday or Thursday? Wednesday, and then the executive board, the 18th. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say that nobody likes increases, but the cost of living is 4%. As 4%, if we get that, to me, that sounds wonderful. It's a whole lot better than 10. Anyway, that may make me the para of Westminster, but I did want to put that forth to people.
Well, nobody wanted to endure 10% again, believe me. Not you and not me. So, yes, ma'am.
This is building on what Janet was saying a minute
Yes.
ago.
Yes.
At the annual meeting of FLYCRA, to which 5 other Westminster communities do actually belong,
Mhm.
that was in October, those other communities already knew what their increase was going to be because they had had involvement in participating and being informed about the process. So I came away from that meeting understanding several things. One, others of our communities do have more information than we get. And it's done in such a way that the people reporting this at the board meeting were in support of it. We're not upset. We're not ragging on the executive director, you know, because they had actually respectfully been included in the process. So that's another thing to think about.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Right up here.
This is a little bitty item for you to think about or let me know about. When someone from maintenance or any department, I guess it would just be maintenance, comes to my house, I have filled out a work form. I may have said, please let me know first before you come.
They are supposed to do that.
They are supposed to do that, they don't. But the other part is if they enter my house, whether I've told them to or not, if they could just put a card down that said, I was here, maintenance department. They don't have to write a big thing if that's a difficulty, but I'd like to know whether someone's entered my house and.
Understood. And they do
And it
have
just
cards, and we
I'm-
will remind them to use them.
I know that has come up before, and I just don't understand the complexity of taking a card and putting it on my counter.
I don't either.
Okay,
They should be able to do that, 100%.
thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Right here?
How soon for the chaplain?
So we made an offer and she accepted. So we're excited to bring Erin Rosika on board. So she's going through all her background, drug screen, all that right now. So as soon as that's all clear, then we'll have her on board. Many of you know her from the Sunday services. Yeah, I think she will be a great addition. I'm very, very pleased that she accepted. Anybody else? All right, it's 10 to 11, so it's a short meeting. Unless you have anything else, I will say have a wonderful January, and we'll see you in February for town meeting. Thank you.